right, let's boogie. All right, so as I was saying, thank you for joining me, guys, with our guest speaker, David Mullings, for an elevating breakout session. Let me introduce myself. I'm Devona Reynolds Perez, obviously, and I'm a proud member of JWOF. And I'm a past president of the Caribbean Bar Association and an Immaculate Conception old girl. Can I say old girl now? So my best years were spent at Immaculate. And if we have any Immaculate girls out there in the audience, big up yourselves, ladies, cream of the crop, right? But anyway, we're not talking about me today. We are going to be talking about wealth creation and about the Jamaican stock market, which is actually recognized as the world's best performing stock market. 2018, 2019, we're still doing that. We're still doing well, David. Maybe not as well as we were back then.
No, we're not doing as well.
Yeah, exactly. But, I think it's just, amazing that little Jamaica, our little rock, was recognized for being the world's best performing stock market. I think that's just fantastic. But anyway, let me also introduce you to our speaker, David. David Mullings. I can't call you Mr. Mullings. It's just not going to me. Okay,
I
David.
agree.
So we're calling him David. All right. So David was recognized. I mean, he's just perfectly placed to be leading us in this discussion. He was recently recognized, awarded the Chancellor's Award for Excellence in Business Leadership by the American Foundation of the University of the West Indies. He's been listed in top 50 most influential Caribbean entrepreneurs. And he was most recently recognized by Disrupt magazine with folks like Elon Musk, founder of Tesla and SpaceX, as one of the top 10 entrepreneurs disrupting their industries in 2021. Wow, David, big up. But, and I've known David for quite a while. He is a Campion College old boy, right?
Yes.
And you went on to the University of Miami. But before that, I don't know what age you left Jamaica.
15.
Because, guys, he went to the University of Miami, graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Biology, with a minor in Chemistry and Religion. We need to talk, though, David. I love that little minor there. But he was 19 when he graduated with his bachelor's. That's amazing. And then he apparently took some time off, went back to the University of Miami and got his master's in marketing and international business. And even after taking some time off, he still graduated with his master's at 22. So you're quite busy there. I also found it interesting. You are actually a Black legacy University of Miami family. Any University of Miami folks out there? Black legacy family. You graduated from University of Miami, and so did your father.
Yes, and my brother. Yes, and dad did his master's in public health there. I did undergrad and my MBA there. And my brother did undergrad and his MBA there as well.
Awesome. You are also the director of Fund Black Founders, the chair of the Development Bank of Jamaica Mentorship Innovation Entrepreneurship Program, the MIEP. David also serves on the advisory board for the Caribbean School of Data, funded by Google.org and based at Mona School of Business. And you are a member of the board of advisors of Kingston Creative, a movement with a mission to make downtown Kingston a vibrant center for creative entrepreneurship in the Caribbean. You've served as the first future leaders. I mean, you've been very busy. I mean, what's your wife doing with you? Because, I mean,
she's an immaculate girl, by the way, and her mother-in-law part of Immaculate.
Girl. I also know your wife for a while now. She also went to Wilmer's Prep.
Yes.
So it's funny. I just still see her as that sweet little girl. She was always just this but I know she keeps you on the manners.
Yes.
She's grown up since then. But now you are currently the founder and CEO of Blue Mahoe Capital Partners. And Blue Mahoe is a private investment firm based in South Florida. And you focus on retail investors' access to portfolios in the Caribbean Basin.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right.
So, let's give David a warm welcome. We can't hear the applause, but I am very proud of you, David. Very proud to know you, and we're honored to have you here with us today.
No, thank you, Devona, and thank you for inviting me, JWOF, for the second time. Hillary Career was on radio with me in Jamaica, Power 96 in Jamaica, Power 106 the other day, and saying that I'm one of the few men they've had twice. So I hope to deliver once again. So thank you for having me. The most important thing I wanted to start with was that Simon Sinek, the author behind Infinite Game, Find Where, Why, and Start with Why, says that you have to decide who to trust before you decide who to believe or what to believe. So who first, who do you trust, and then you decide what to believe. And years ago, my brother and I presented at Miami-Dade College. We're invited to speak to a group of about 100 students. And I opened that with 3 images. We're there to talk about entrepreneurship and our career, but outside success. And so the first image was a picture of me driving in an orange Lamborghini Gallardo, but I didn't put the name of the vehicle. I just put that up there. And I said, who in here wants to be able to afford these nicer things or donate the money? But the point is, you can afford the car, right? And so I asked him what car was that. And one guy obviously said, oh, a Lamborghini Gallardo. And then I showed a picture of a Rolex, this watch called a Rolex Datejust. That was a $10,500 watch. And I said, who wants to be able to afford this stuff? And then I showed them that I was wearing the watch in the classroom. And so that was a bit of a gasp. And then the last one, I showed a really nice house, just one of those modern houses. And so at the end of it, I said, if you listen to me, by the end of this speech, you'll be able to achieve these things, hopefully within the next 25 years. Who wants to listen to me? And so everybody now all of a sudden, yay. And I said, great, guys, let me tell you this. If you ever go to another presentation and somebody starts with those things, get up and leave and tell them David Mullings said I'm not listening to you. Because then I went on to explain to them, there's a quote that I found that says, some people are not what they post to be. Social media, we're posting all these things, this amazing life. And so I started going through them. I was like, let me explain how easy it is to trick people and get them to believe you. Number one, how much it cost me for the car? Well, it cost me $55 to drive the car for 3 laps by the Broward Center in the parking lot, and I couldn't go over 35 miles an hour. And they took photos. So that's one, $55. People have this image. Second one is the watch now. I mean, I'm wearing the watch in the room. So how do I have the watch? At the time, there was a company called 11james.com where you could sign up for a 1-year membership for $149 per month. And every 3 months, you get a different high-end watch to wear. And then you return the watch. So that would have been $149 a month to get the Rolex. However, I work for a hedge fund, so I didn't even pay for the watch. The hedge fund paid for the watch, so I would have that kind of a watch when I'm meeting people. Last one, of course, is a house. So I ask anybody want to guess how I get the house then? And nobody, they give up at that point. And I said, guys, I just went and found an open house on Zillow, and I show up and take a picture inside the house. So be very cautious about people showing us fancy things and claiming they own them, because it's too easy to fake it until you make it. So what I'm going to talk about today is saying that I'm not doing any of that. I will be very real with you guys, very honest, and hopefully you will decide to trust the information that I'm sharing.
I was actually there for that presentation.
Oh!
It was very, yeah, I was there. And it's funny that you started out talking about Simon Sinek's Find Your Why, because one of the first questions that I wanted to ask you before we start getting into the meat of the industry and all of that, you're clearly passionate about what you do, and you're very good at it, and you've been very successful about it. So tell us, what is your why? So
I love that. So I finished high school at 15. I finished fifth form at Campion at 15, and Dad asked me, what do I want to be when I grow up, right? Dad is a lecturer at university and a medical doctor. Mom is a nurse. And I tell him, I want to become a positive role model for young people around the world, especially young males in Jamaica. And Dad is like, oh man, that's not the answer we expected. But you know what? We know you, so you probably have a plan. What's the plan? And I said, I have 4 options. Number 1, I could become a lecturer at university just like you and be a positive role model. And he said, I'm flattered you want to follow me, but those aren't the people who need positive role models as much. It's the ones who drop out of high school. So put that to the side. What's the second option? Oh, I could become a politician and eventually become Prime Minister of Jamaica and be a different kind of politician, one who is honest, who fights corruption and has better policies in place for the good of the people. And Dad said, well, you probably can get into a position of power. Unfortunately, we think you have to get rid of the morals and values that we raise you with to get into a position of power to become Prime Minister. And you're probably going to get a shot. So don't do that. Like typical uptown. And so what were your last two? Well, the last two is one, I could become a star footballer. We all thought we could play football. Become a star footballer and use that
No,
for
we didn't.
good. Well, sorry, a lot of us guys thought that we were star footballers. Or I could become a business owner, an entrepreneur that would own my own film and music companies that could influence what people watch and what they listen to. And so Richard Branson became that role model person. And that's what they did. Dad said those aren't mutually exclusive, so you can do both of them at the same time. So that's why when I finished college at 19, I finished University of Miami, I went back to Jamaica to play for Real Mona. I played in the under-20 competition in Jamaica, and I played in the second division. But I got a scholarship to do my MBA, and so guess what? I can't delay the scholarship. One ACL injury and football career is over. I need to take the free money. So I went and did the scholarship and said one day I'll just buy a football team and walk on the field in the 90th minute and kick a penalty. And that's what I will do. So I knew from 15 that's what I wanted to do. But that was partly because of my parents. Mom and dad raised me paying attention to people like Michael Manley, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., JFK. And so I was raised in a house where we were taught to think massive. I don't even want to think big. You see the saying, think bigger? That is how I was raised. And to give back, that you are not better than anybody. My mom and dad came from rural Jamaica and were able to uplift themselves through education, thanks to Michael Manley's policies. But that didn't mean that I should look down on anybody else who hadn't yet gotten there. Maybe it's their generation's turn. They are just now uplifted. Their parents were better than them. And so I want to give back. And I think you need to have something driving you more than just money. Money is a tool. It's like a hammer. I can use it to build or I can use it to break down. You shouldn't chase something for money. But lastly, you personally don't actually have to have a passion, or a vision. I think ultimately what we actually want is vision. We don't want passion, but you can have somebody else have a vision and then you join. So Jesus had a vision and then he had disciples who joined along to help him accomplish that vision. And when you believe in that vision, you then get passion. That's what Simon Sinek would say. If you find a vision that you can buy into, you can become passionate about it. And I think we need to think in that way. Find something that you believe in. And it doesn't have to be the work you do. Like work may just be a means to an end to give you money to execute the vision and put the passion somewhere. So for example, you are a lawyer and so you make your money, but work is not what you're passionate about. But because you're earning good money, you can then donate money and time to Jamaican women of Florida that's going to uplift women. That's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that. Work itself doesn't have to be the one that is fulfilling. Work can allow you to do things that are fulfilling.
And I have Marlon Hill in the chat box here saying Jesus is. Thanks, Marlon. So stick a pin. You said something really important here about vision. And I was checking you out and checking out your website and stuff and not being a stalker or anything, but I was pretty impressed with, and I'm trying to find it here so that I can not muck it up. But I was really impressed by Blue Mahoe's vision statement. So I'm going to read this vision statement to you guys. It's to create the most recognized investment firm for minority wealth creation and wealth preservation. That's a really lofty goal, and really admirable, David. And it sort of goes in line with what you're saying and what your personal why is, and you've translated that into your company. But I'm sure there's some challenges that come with that, and I wanted to talk to you. I want you to tell us, what are the challenges and opportunities that are unique to minorities and probably the diaspora, Jamaican diaspora, Caribbean folks, when it comes to being wealth creators for ourselves, rather than wealth creators and builders, rather than wealth generators for other people,
Right.
right? And consumers. How do we, bridge that gap, make that transition?
No, I think that's a good point. I'm glad you bring up the vision statement because that is at the core of what we do. Everybody knows Michael Leachin is my coach. I talk to Mike, 3 times a week. Mike is worth over $2 billion, and Mike would say his core driving force is to make people wealthy. Right? If you give me some money to invest, my job is to make you wealthy. If I make you wealthy, if I get you a good return, I will in turn end up doing well. So focus on the consumer, your customer first. And so what we face, I worked with a hedge fund before, a black-owned hedge fund, and I worked in private equity before that. And I was usually one of only 2 black people in the room, myself and my boss, and then everybody else is not black. One of the things that I did learn though, we have an advantage, right? The disadvantage is that we have this skin color, which means people have a stereotype immediately. But there is an assumption that if you're in that room, you do belong in that room. And when you're in a room with other wealthy people, other hedge fund managers, you are vetted to get in there. So you actually get the benefit of the doubt. So that's a good start. The advantage we have though, as Caribbean people, is that we were raised with nothing to do with us. We were raised, born in most cases in a country where we saw bankers who look like us. It's not that they went and got a tan, they're brown and they're black. Or we could see judges and lawyers and police and doctors and prime ministers who looked like us and sounded like us. So our mindset was different. We were taught that we could achieve anything, nothing special. We had a class problem in the Caribbean, not a race problem. We come to the United States, and that means we have a different mindset. Marcus Garvey would say that, if you don't know your self-worth, then you're twice defeated. And so we already came here with this sense of self-worth, which is partly why Black Americans will say that, oh, but on too enough, you need to humble yourself. I want to go on so. Because we were never beaten down in the same way. And so we have to recognize that they tend to have a disadvantage and we shouldn't look down on them. We should help them. We should actually bring them to Jamaica. Make them spend some time there and uplift themselves. Martin Luther King came to Jamaica and he loved it. He said he felt at home. He felt welcome in Jamaica. So we start with that. We have an advantage. You open your mouth and they hear that accent, boom, Jamaica. I'm talking about the trip that they went on, the wedding, Dundra Falls, jerk chicken, reggae music, and Bob Marley, Sean Paul. Let's be real. That's an advantage. They want to spend time with us. But we don't leverage that because we still have one other problem though. Most of us didn't talk about money around the kitchen table. Most of us never saw our parents make investments. And I thought it was normal for your parents to talk about money and to talk about investments. I remember being 9 years old and going with my parents to Solomon Smith Valley to meet with their investment manager here in the United States. I remember constantly going to my parents to understand their portfolio that they invested in Jamaica and here in the US. And in fact, I met Michael Leachin because Dad was a client of NCB Capital Markets. Mike was doing an event in Jamaica about his Portland India Fund. And Dad was invited and he asked me to come as his +1 because I was working at Jamaica National. And Dad said, I'm a medical doctor, you know finance, you help to design these products, can you come and translate for me? So that is how I ended up meeting him. I think it's important for us now, in our generation, if you have children or kids, or not necessarily your kids, you have other people's kids, talk about money, talk about investing, talk about compound interest. And I'd say the most important thing is to understand that the Rockefeller family, one of the wealthiest families in history, they started out, John D. Rockefeller would give his kids money. And whatever he'd give them, says $100, he would say 60% is to be spent. Spend it however you want, not my business. I want you to save 20% of that. You need to invest/save, and the other 20 you need to donate to charity. Give it away. Whatever you choose additional to invest/save or give away, I will match you dollar for dollar. We do not do that in any Black community, whether it's Africa, the Caribbean, or the United States. We have not been doing that. And so we are focused on saving and sticking the money under the mattress and getting 0.1% interest rather than compounding at 12% a year, 10% a year, 5% a year. We tend to want to buy real estate. Oh, I can see it, I can touch it. Hey, don't grow as fast. Rich people buy real estate. That's true. They didn't buy real estate to get rich. They bought real estate to stay rich. Two different things.
Really?
Two different things. If you think about the wealthiest people, Mike will tell you we have 5 laws of wealth creation. I want you guys to think of a wealthy person who didn't inherit the money, they didn't win the money. They created value. And they're on the Forbes list. So it has to be one of the Forbes people. Don't tell me who it is, but number one, Mike would say this person had a few businesses, probably one. They own one thing. This business, and it was probably private, right? This business was domiciled in a strong long-term growth industry. Number three, they understood how the business made money, the industry, how the business worked. Number four, they were prudent managers of OPM, other people's money. That means investors' money. That means borrowed money. It means customers' money. That is not your money. That's other people's money. But fifth and final was that they held for the long term. So whether you want to bring up Facebook, whether you want to bring up Warren Buffett, you want to bring up Bill Gates, you bring up Steve Jobs, you bring up Elon Musk, you bring up Richard Branson. I mean, you name them. They focused on a few things and then they followed those 5 laws. They didn't do it in real estate. They use the money to buy real estate later on. So wealth creation is different from wealth preservation. You can get very wealthy in real estate. I'll be honest, you can get very wealthy in real estate, but you need cash to do it at scale. Investing is much easier. And you don't have to get fabulously rich either. We don't have to be fabulously wealthy. What we want is to be financially free, which is a personal definition as well. And you have to decide. And then we forget Richie Powell. I was working with Richie, and Richie said to me, hey, you and your brother need to go down to Biscayne Boulevard and go to the Ferrari dealership. I needed to sit in a Ferrari, smell that leather, and decide at what point in your life will you be able to afford to buy one of those cars. I'm not saying you're going to buy a Ferrari. You could take that money and donate to church, donate to a charity, do a scholarship, whatever you want, but you can afford to buy the car or do what you want. And so we went and sat in that car. Yeah. So a lot of us grew up in households where we see somebody in a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, or Rolls Royce, especially in Miami, and we might turn our nose up at them or say how they spend the money on this thing. I grew up asking those people, excuse me, what do you do for a living? Every one of them. I want to know what you do that allow you to buy that. Sometimes you find out that they didn't buy it, they're leasing it. I was like, oh, well, if you're not getting a tax break, it's not so wise. But ask people, ask successful people, what did you do? If you want to be a lawyer, you're going to ask a lawyer. What did you do to become a lawyer? If you're going to be a conductor, what did you do to become a doctor? I want to become a star footballer like Messi. What did you do? And I can read about it. What did you do to become as good as you are? I want to get to the best. I don't need to ask the average person what they did. I need to ask the best person what they did, how much sacrifice they had to make, and then decide, am I willing to pay the same sacrifice?
Yeah. But, I really want to drill into this idea of the cultural barriers that are unique to minorities. And you sort of touched on it a little bit. The fact that, and I'll share that, like my father grew up in rural St. Catherine. His father was a pig farmer and a shop owner, and his, father and mother before that, they were, the same, very conservative people, right? And so, they were probably more likely to stick their money under the mattress, like you mentioned, rather than invest in stocks or VCs or any of those kinds of things. And I am quite certain that we still have people in Jamaica today that still have that mindset and are very skeptical, of investing in stocks. How can we break those? And we don't even realize how we carry those into their lives. So obviously, as the daughter of somebody who's clearly, my dad's he's not a pig farmer anymore, but he was raised by those kinds of people, right? So he's still very conservative, and you carry that over into your life as an adult, and you realize that maybe I'm a little bit more risk averse than some other folks, maybe like you, David, that have the benefit of having that exposure very, very young, right? How do we recognize those patterns, those cultural barriers, and then break them?
Well, so Marlon touches on a point about slavery and what was stolen from us. So it started back then, right? They made us feel that we couldn't do those things. Investing in stocks and businesses is not for you little people. It's only for us over here, the landed gentry. So that's something that's been generational, right? We call it generational trauma. So that's been passed down. And so it's important for us to first recognize that this generational trauma exists and then decide we have to unlearn what we have been taught. Just because somebody's your parent does not mean that they're always right. So you need to start with who is going to be a role model. So Michael Leachin says it's very simple. 3 things. Number 1, find a role model. Number 2, get the recipe. Number 3, don't change the recipe. You're only allowed to change the recipe if you exceed the role model. His role model is Warren Buffett. My role model is Warren Buffett. So my parents, they used to get upset, but now they know they can't talk to me about investing because they have not executed what Warren Buffett has done. So I listen to Warren Buffett when it comes to that. If Dad comes to me with some medical stuff, I will listen to them. Right. So again, Ray Dalio, who runs the largest hedge fund in the world, calls that believability weighted decision making. How believable is this person on the topic that they're talking to me about? So when Dr. Fauci is going to come and say, wear a mask, because that is going to help you, and somebody else says, no, wear a mask, which one are you going to listen to? Which one is more believable? So we need to start doing that. So we have to unlearn trusting everybody and start focusing on who is your role model. And that's important. You get to decide the role model. And then you can't listen to everybody else. I have one coach. I can't have 4 coaches trying to get me to become a good football player. Pick one coach, listen to them, and shut your ears to everybody else. Stop listening to everybody else. If you're a barber or your hairdresser, tell you to go out and buy some Bitcoin, probably don't listen to them. That's the kind of thing that we need to be thinking through. So I think financial literacy is going to be important, and they need to see people who look like us who have done it, because it's hard. I mean, you see over my shoulder, you see Steve Jobs and Richard Branson. There are a lot of people who would look at them and say, well, it's white guys. And so they don't feel like they have anything in common, and they don't want to learn from them. At least somebody like Oprah is black, right? Richard Branson is not.
Wait.
Right? Michael Leachin is a Jamaican.
I'm sorry. I had this conversation. There's a conversation going on in chat that sort of caught my attention here about partner. You know, I guess we call it in the different islands, call it different things. I know the Black American community here have their own thing, but you know, there's this idea of instead of going and investing their money, or we give our money to the person in the community. Yeah. We join and get our draw. What do you think about those kinds of like?
So when I was at Jamaica National, we actually designed a partner plan that Jane itself was going to run, where Jane was a banker, and so that was fascinating to get people to that. But for me, that's a joke. That's a bunch of foolish. Yes, it works for the short term, but you need to think long term. Again, start with this: find the role model, get the recipe, don't change the recipe. I don't know a single wealthy person that throw partner. So why am I going to throw partner? Like, that's it. I don't need to do anything different from what they have done before, especially if they look like me. Michael Leachin is an immigrant from Jamaica, raised in a poor part of Jamaica, that went to a North American country, got education, got experience, and created outsized wealth, and had outsized positive impact. Okay, what's my excuse? That's what it is. What is my excuse? He never got champion. You never have running water. So how am I going to sit there and tell him what to do or do something different? I don't have to do anything different. If I want to become a lawyer, it means that I had to go one step back. I had to graduate. Well, I had to get past the bar, which means I had to go to law school, which means I had to graduate from undergrad and do certain classes. So if you know where you're going, right, I have a destination, I can work backwards on all the steps required to get to that destination. The problem is most of us don't have a destination. So we just meander and do whatever. Most people don't have a destination, so they can't create a path. And what Mike would say, and I agree on that path, is that you need 3 things again. Number 1, you need a framework. You need a decision-making framework to decide what to do and what not to do, what to invest in, what not to invest in, when to leave a career or not. So you need a framework first. And I would say you don't need to invent a framework. You can take a framework from the role model. That's the recipe. Second, though, is that you need control of emotion. Humans are emotional beings. We're not logical. Please don't bring emotions into investing, right? You need to actually control the emotions. How you control the emotions is by actually reverting to your framework, right? So if somebody gets you upset, go back to your framework. Don't let emotions determine your actions in life, right? We are a product of all of our individual decisions. If you're unhappy in a relationship, it's partly because of the decisions that you have made or refused to make. Like, we need to take some personal responsibility. But lastly, even if you have the framework, even if you have the perfect framework, even if you have control of emotions, or you just cold, you're like Spock, And you just quote, logical. You still need access. You need access to good opportunities. You need access to knowledge. You need access to capital. You need those things. And access is a problem that we have had, mainly as Black people in this country. There's access to a certain level of capital. There's not an access to the big part. And that's exactly the problem we're trying to solve with Fund Black Founders and then with Blue Mahoe Capital. Imagine we are here and we did not have access, easy access to the Jamaica Stock Exchange. While it was the best performing exchange, if you wanted to set up an account as an overseas Jamaican, you have to fly to Jamaica, fill out 5 pieces of paperwork, provide 2 letters of reference, and physically sign because they don't take digital signatures. So most of us are not going to do that because we now live in countries where that's what they did 20 years ago. So we go online and click, 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 and I'm now using Robinhood to go and trade. So we need to fix the access part.
So break it down for us, David. I mean, yes, we have this issue of access, you know, that also prevents us from growing wealth in our communities. But you also talked about knowledge, right? So a lot of people join Partner and they do these things because they don't understand the vehicles out there and the pros and cons of using different vehicles to build wealth. You talked about real estate and the fact that real estate, you won't get returns right away. It's more of a long-term sort of thing when you already have the money, right? So can you just, I mean, we have you here today. Let's pull some of that out of you. Can you talk to us, teach us about the different kinds of vehicles, the pros and cons of those things, and, you know, give us some vocabulary here to work with, drop some knowledge on us.
All right, so the most important thing is investopedia.com. That's where you can go and learn all about these things, right? And you get a financial advisor. A financial advisor can train you. The dirty secret within the investment community is that they don't like to go for retail investors. They only want to go after accredited investors, which are high net worth individuals. And accredited means that you either earn $220,000 per year for the last 2 years and expect that for the following year, filing single, or $330,000 filing joint, or you have $1 million net worth, not including your principal residence. They do not count the house you live in your net worth. Remember that. That's a place to live. It's shelter. It's not part of your net worth.
So everybody else
right?
Is a retail investor?
Everybody else is retail after that. Everybody else is a non-accredited investor. Most people don't want to go to retail investors because they have less money and they're less sophisticated. They're called a sophisticated investor. So that's why a hedge fund, a venture capital fund, a private equity fund is not open to non-accredited investors because they don't have time to train you. You need to show that you want to have outsized financial success. So you going to go on Google and you're going to go on YouTube and you're going to find some wealthy friend or a wealthy role model and study them. It is extremely hard to teach one at a time. We are actually taking on a financial literacy program, and that's what Janice McIntosh joined Blue Mahoe to help us do. So we intend to actually teach. I want to share everything I'm learning and pay it forward because Michael Leachin has told me that is one request. I should pay it forward. Everything he teaches me, I should give it to the world. It's not to share just between the two of us. And I think more of us who've created wealth need to do that. More of us who've been successful in other areas should do that. We keep seeing Marlon in here. Marlon is a lawyer who has shared a lot of his knowledge with other potential lawyers and up-and-coming lawyers. The way I put it is that if I have a candle with a flame, right? This is my flame and my flame is my knowledge. If I help to light your candle, does my flame disappear? No, I still have my flame. Right. I can actually light a whole heap of flames. We need to start thinking of our knowledge as a flame and we can pay it forward and it doesn't take away anything from what we have. So if you know a little bit about investing, next time your friends come over or you're having dinner, tell them what you've learned. Pass it on. We have not done enough of that. And the unfortunate term is that we talk about crabs in a barrel. But as one of my friends said to me, she said, David, people keep calling Black people crabs in a barrel and said that other people don't do that, other groups don't do that to themselves. She said, but are crabs naturally in a barrel or did somebody put them there? And so that is the point. Somebody put us in a barrel. How they get there? So we need to first recognize we've been put in a barrel and say, oh, who put us in the barrel? Okay, why did they put us in the barrel? Okay, now I get it. We are powerful. They're afraid of us. They need to put us in a barrel. Let's figure out a way to get out the barrel together now. And then when you get out, turn over the barrel Don't run left everybody. Turn over the barrel and say, hey, everybody, roll in. Let's go, let's learn, let's pay it forward. And that's exactly what we're doing
I
from
love
a
it.
company standpoint.
You know, you're kind of reminding me about Marcus Garvey, Jamaica's national hero. And, you know, controversial figure as well, though, right?
Or is history trying to
But
make us
one
think
of the
he's
things that,
controversial?
well, I don't know, you know, I'm not even going to go there. But the thing that I'm going to, you know, touch on and ask you to expand on is this idea and this thing that he was committed to, which was building financial wealth among the Black community, you know, whether it's through Africa, but independent, right? Independent of, you know, the white dominant countries. It's for us to build wealth. And he believed that that's the only way that we were going to achieve equality. That's the only way we're going to achieve equity, is to build wealth among ourselves and build and gain power that way. What's your take on that? I mean, now it's 2021. I don't know.
Well, it's important though, Devona. I would say equality and equity is not the same thing, right? I actually don't believe in equality.
Starliner.
I don't believe in equality in the sense of, if you're tall and I'm short, I'm not going to ask you to lower the basketball rim so I can dunk. If Usain Bolt is faster than me, I'm not going to ask you to change it and make him start further back. Like they're just fundamental differences. I cannot have children. I am not equal to you. We're different. We have our own strengths and weaknesses. Equity, however, means that we need to get equal access. We should at least have the same access to education, the same access to public resources, the same access to healthcare. That's now equity. There's a baseline that everybody should get, and we don't get that. Well, let's think about this. Regardless of what you think about the Israel and Palestine situation, let's just look at a fundamental fact. Israel is able to build more settlements where they want to build by getting money from their Jewish diaspora. Those people have gone and made money, which gives them agency. They don't have to answer to nobody. They made their money, they invested amongst themselves. If one of them fall down in the community, they pick them back up. They don't shun them, they help them. You can come stay in my house, your business failed, help get back on your feet. We're going to patronize your business, we're going to make sure we support you. And then we're going to take that money, we're going to buy Israeli government bonds, we're going to donate to settlements, we're going to make sure our place is safe. Have we done that for Jamaica, for the Caribbean, for Africa?
Well, you're doing that.
Well, we are trying to do
Blue Mahoe is
something,
doing
right?
that.
We are trying to do something in that way. But that's it. We're planning to launch an exchange traded fund later this year. That's a diversity, equity, and inclusion fund, an ETF. So all of us can buy. $10 you can buy into it. And the idea behind it is very simple. Instead of complaining that Nike doesn't have enough Black people on the board or doesn't have enough women on the board, right? And say, oh, well, we should just launch a Black version of Nike. We hear a lot of that stuff. That's not what we need. We need Black people to own more of Nike. When you own something, you get to talk and dictate. You can show up at the shareholders meeting. You can vote. So let us focus on ownership of stuff and ownership of the stuff that are already working. So I think that is the way we need to start thinking about things. You only have agency if you have money. You might not like that the world work that way, but you know, who donate to the politician, get to call the politician. And the more you donate, it's the more access to get to the politician. And that's whether it's Democrat or Republican. So how about we focus on building up our capital so we can have access, because we know our heart is in the right place. We're doing it for the right reasons to uplift way more people. Because somebody going to do it anyway. How about we go do it instead?
Yeah. You know, I had this list, you know, and it was in order, and you just blew that list out of the water. But one of the questions that I had, David, is tell us, I mean, this is what Blue Mahoe is focusing on, and why should we invest in Jamaica? And how can we invest in Jamaica? For some of us that are here, why? What's going on in Jamaica and in the Caribbean that should, you know, incentivize us to invest there? And what other access do we have to
right? No, so I'll paint a picture for you. I spoke at Jamaica Business Development Corporation Accelerator Program 2 years ago for their commencement. And I pointed out some simple things to them, and I want to see people comment in here and give me the answer. So I gave them a tale of two countries. Very simple. One is Jamaica, one is Singapore. And I'm going to give you some things, because it's not about what Jamaica is today. It's about what Jamaica can be. So this country gained independence in the 1960s after being a British colony and being part of a federation? Which country, Jamaica or Singapore? Which one, Devona?
Ask that again.
Janice
I wasn't
McIntosh is not
hearing
allowed to
Shy.
answer. It is both countries. This
No, say that again. My father always talks about Lee Kuan Yew
right.
and
This
Singapore. So I
right.
know
So
this.
this
Tell
country,
me,
this country gained independence in the 1960s after being a British colony and after being part of a federation. Which country? Both countries. Right. This country is a bilingual country, at least has multiple languages, had a population of less than 3 million people, is next door to a major international market, and had one of the largest naturally protected harbors in the world. Which country, Jamaica or Singapore? Both countries.
Both Jamaica and
Okay, then. So this country had a leader who decided that we are not going to stand for political corruption and we're going to invest in the education of our people. Which country, Jamaica or Singapore?
Well,
Singapore. Trisha is right.
Singapore.
Everybody agrees say Singapore.
Singapore, but we didn't we go down this route, with Manly?
No, we didn't go down this road, Manly. Manly was not following the same policies of Lee Kuan Yew. He was following a different set of policies, democratic socialism. Lee Kuan Yew is who inspired Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping came after Mao in China. You know what Deng Xiaoping said after visiting Singapore? Man said, oh, you know what? Black cat or white cat, I don't care as long as the cat catches mice. As long as the cat catches mice. So they don't care if it's communism, capitalism, socialism, democratic socialism. How do I empower my people, educate my people, make them safe, make them healthy, and give them opportunities that increases their per capita income? I don't care where the policy comes from. Does it work? And that's all. You can't be ideological. So Jamaica has the potential to be the Singapore of the Western Hemisphere. And so let's just paint a picture of why we should invest. Which country had one of the two wealthiest cities in the Western Hemisphere in the 1500s? You know the two wealthiest cities back then? Boston and Port Royal. Boston and Port Royal, right? If you go on the Jamaica Post Office website right now, they will tell you that Jamaica had the first post office in the Western Hemisphere. Not America, not Canada, Jamaica. Scotiabank opened in Halifax and then opened in Jamaica and then opened in Toronto. Scotiabank in the 1800s. So they always saw Jamaica as this gem in the Western Hemisphere, the same way India was a gem in the Eastern Hemisphere for that British Empire, the empire the sun didn't set on. We have forgotten that. I said in a radio interview today that's coming out tomorrow on RGR. Think about this. We as Jamaicans don't seem to realize how big our culture is and what we have done before. We're not trying to do it again, And we're not trying to do it new. We did it before. So when the Berlin Wall fell, who sang them singing? It's Bob Marley them singing. When they're marching in Tiananmen Square, who picture them have up on quotes? Bob Marley. When they're in the bush in Rhodesia fighting for independence for what became Zimbabwe, is who music them listening to? Bob Marley. Right? South Africa fighting apartheid is Bob Marley. Jamaica was the first country to say, we're not going to support apartheid. And that was Michael Manley standing up. We as Jamaicans have done some amazing things. At one point, Jamaica exported 40% of all the sugar to the world, 40% of all the sugar came from Jamaica alone. It has been downhill since then. The most expensive coffee in the world, Jamaican, Blue Mountain coffee. The most expensive cotton in the world, Sea Island cotton, grown in Jamaica and a little bit in Barbados. Have we invested in that? So we have to first look back at what we have accomplished and then figure out what can we do to play a part in scaling that. Marlon said, bring out the Maroons, because the Maroons been going while everybody talking about Akampang. Right? The Maroons beat the British before the United States beat the British. The Maroons beat the British before the United States beat the British. And they had to sign a peace treaty with them. And that inspired the Haitian Revolution, which then led to the first free Black republic in the Western Hemisphere. And we saw what happened to Haiti after they did that. And so we have to remember what has happened to them as well. So let's start with the fact that our history is powerful and we can't allow somebody else to write it for us. We need to remind our kids and ourselves of what we have done, right? When we talk about the Jamaica National Pledge, right? Before God and all mankind, we literally talk about Jamaica taking its rightful place, helping the whole human race.
Are we running out of time already?
Yeah, man.
sound like we're
So
running
that
out of
is why
time,
we need
but
to invest in Jamaica, because we can
exactly,
play a
that's what
part.
I wanted to bring you back
We
to.
need to invest in
I
Jamaica
wanted to
because
bring you back.
we know this is true, and we can help resident Jamaicans to remember what this country is capable of doing. Singapore is not smarter than us. South Korea is not smarter than us. Costa Rica is not smarter than us, and they don't have the reach
David,
our culture has.
highlight what we've done so far. I mean, we were what debt ratio, what
We were at
147%, something crazy, and
147%
we've
debt to
lowered that.
GDP
So
ratio.
tell us what's going
So,
on now.
right, so Jamaica has a debt to GDP ratio that's below 100%. America can't say that. We are now the case study for the IMF because Greece did the opposite of us.
Whoop, whoop.
We brought interest rates down from 14 odd percent to now 7% and lower. So we have low interest rates in Jamaica. When the last mortgage I designed at Jamaica National was 13.3%, and we were happy to have the lowest mortgage in Jamaica. I just see a mortgage come out the other day for 7%. So that is amazing. That means that the government is no longer crowding out the capital markets. There are other people now that can get the money to do things. Business can borrow at a lower rate. So we need to be going in now. And I'm going to give you a simple reason. If you think about it, you had $100,000 in 2002. Jamaica is about to go into a financial crisis. And so and it just came out of one, right? You could buy NCB when Michael Leachin puts in the $100,000 in 2002. That $100,000 could be invested in the S&P 500 index. I just buy a Vanguard index fund, low fees, boom. Or you could take $100,000 and buy Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway, obviously my favorite company. The $100,000 in Berkshire as of June 30th last year, June 30th, 2020, would be worth about $335,000. That's a good return since 2002. Let's admit that. In the S&P 500, it'd be worth $440,000. Just put $100,000 and leave it. That's a really good return. That same $100,000 invested in Jamaica in NCB stock in 2002, as of June 30th, 2020, we were $2.7 million US dollars. That is why we need to invest in Jamaica. Wealth is being created down there with or without us. So you better participate. And by participating, we also have more clout, more access. We can help more people down there.
Wait, one more question, and then I want to ask Marlon's question. He wants to know what we should do with our $1,400 stimulus check. But I want to highlight something. The Jamaica Stock Exchange was the first woman to chair the Jamaica Stock Exchange was actually a woman, right? It was what's her name? Rita Humphreys.
Lewin, yes,
Lewin,
from Barita.
right? First woman in the Caribbean to head a stock exchange. So can you tell us, I mean, briefly, what are the opportunities for women in particular in leadership, in business, and in the financial industry in Jamaica and in the Caribbean?
Well, I think we all know this, right? 70% of the students at University of the West Indies are female. The opportunities for leadership for women have always been great. The problem is actually men. We have a problem with our men in Jamaica. If only 30% of the men are going to university, who the 70% of women going to marry? We already have a problem.
Well, who's so?
We have a fundamental problem. I talk to you, enough of my female friends in Jamaica don't know we have a problem with our men. We have a problem with men dropping onto the workforce. The men are the ones with the guns that are creating havoc and committing these criminal acts. It is not the women doing it. Some of them doing it to get stuff to give to the women, but women don't have a problem in Jamaica with leadership positions. Out of the banks, it's 5 big banks. I think 2 are run by women. You look at the judges, the lawyers. Women are everywhere because it's 70% of the students are women. So women run the world as far as I'm concerned.
Another reason to invest in Jamaica, guys.
It's run by women. The women running the place. And the more women that get involved, right? We have the most amount of women in parliament than we've ever had in Jamaica's history right now. That's a really good thing. I like seeing that. It means that you women, one, get to bring your issues to the fore and not have men talk about what to do with their bodies. I think that's good. But more importantly, let's give women a chance. If you look at the countries that have done the best with COVID and have been the most compassionate, is the countries run by women. New Zealand, Germany. I mean, if you go and look at the list, it's amazing. Women, though, are different. Women are more compassionate. Women are more motherly. Women are actually more peaceful. So if more women were leaders of countries, and I was very proud to work on Hillary Clinton's campaign in charge of Caribbean American Outreach in Miami-Dade. Women, right? If we had more women leaders, we'd have fewer wars. we'd have fewer trade spots. That's it. That's my opinion. So how about this? We men have had 2,000 plus years, and this is the world we've inherited. It's not exactly going great. Let's give women a chance. You can't do any worse than us. I can tell you that. You cannot do worse than us men. Let's give you a chance.
You've sold me. I'm ready to start investing just because the women now are
Of course, and so Sharon is asking, how can you invest in the Jamaican stock market from the US? You can't. You have to fly. You have to open a brokerage account with a company in Jamaica. You have to fill out 5 pieces of paperwork. You have to get 2 letters of reference, and then you have to fly down to Jamaica and sign the paperwork. You can't. It's ridiculous. We are trying to solve that problem. So we are going to focus on creating a listed company. Blue Mahoe Capital intends to go public on the NASDAQ here in the US. So you can use Robinhood, you can use a regular account to buy Charles Schwab, Merrill Lynch account, buy our stock, and get exposure to the 15 public companies we own in Jamaica. And we have 3 other private ones, and we're doing some more. So we become essentially a Berkshire Hathaway. It's not an exchange traded fund, it's an investment holding company. But that means that you don't have to worry about picking the underlying companies. Because even if you could invest directly into Jamaica, you would now need to go and read the annual reports and the quarterly reports of Grace Kennedy and NCB and all these companies and stay on top of it. But you know what? You need to focus on doing what you're good at. So if you're good at being a lawyer, if you're good at being a doctor, then stay good at being that. Just like how you pay an accountant to your accounts, you pay the lawyer for legal work, you pay the dentist to the dentist work. Let an investment manager who get to stare at it all day handle the investments. And pay as few fees as possible.
They're going to shut us down. But one last question, okay? This is important because we have a lot of women in the audience, and I know that they are the financial controllers at home. But that means what they're doing is they're paying the bills, and they're paying the school fee, and they're buying the groceries. But they sometimes get caught up in the weeds doing all those things. How do we then, move to investing, growing our money, 2 tips, 3 tips, and then we.
So we said you have to find that role model, get recipe. But the first one is that you need to build good financial habits. So that means you put aside any amount of money. I don't care if you start with $50 a month. Every month you take your money and you put it in the market. You can put it in an S&P 500 index fund. So find a Vanguard fund that is very low fees, and every month you start putting that money in there, like $50 or whatever. Your 401k, automated every month. I get paid $50 or $100, but start building consistency. That's number one. You need to start, right? So start and build consistency. Number 2, you want to do it over time. You don't want to take $10,000 and then buy stock today, because it might be the top of the market. Do not try to time the market. Peter Lynch, one of the most famous investors, said time in the market beats timing the market. So put the money in consistently. That's called dollar cost averaging. And so that smooths out the ups and downs you're going to see. And then lastly, do it for a long time. You're doing this for 10 years or longer. You're not investing to get rich quick. You're investing to get rich slow. Compound interest is your friend, right? Einstein said the 8th wonder of the world is compounding. Compound interest is your friend.
All right, you hear that, ladies? So you have the time. Start making those transfers over to your savings and
Marlon said we're not done yet. Lock them out.
That compound. Yeah, I want them locked up, but you know what? They soon shut us down.
So talk until they shut us down then. Oh, I'm due.
We just talk. Yeah, I think we should. And I think we need to have a part 2, David, because I have plenty
I'm
of questions.
I'm happy to do a special part 2. So Donna is asking, how can we invest in Blue Mahoe stock? Unfortunately, you have to wait until we go public. So by this summer, we expect it to be listed on the NASDAQ capital market. So wait for a big announcement to let people know that they'll be able to purchase. We priced our shares on the private side. We're doing something right now, but we will certainly be reaching out to the women, Jamaican women of Florida, before everything busts. So you'll get at least be updated on when the IPO is ready. But we're excited to execute this because we need access, but 2, we need transparency. And to explain why we did this, I was on the Jamaica Diaspora Advisory Board, and Marlene Street Forest, the head of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, asked me to speak at their January conference in 2014 to explain how do we get the Jamaican diaspora to invest in Jamaica. Not send remittances, not send more donations, but invest. And so I went down and I said, it's simple. 5 real simple rules. Number 1, we don't trust the government. That's just standard for any emerging market. We don't trust the government. So we don't want the diaspora bond. We want it to be a private sector-led initiative. That's number one. Number two, we felt that it was important that it was run by someone from the diaspora with investment experience who goes down to Jamaica more often than those of us who've moved away and not look back, because we need to know who to do business with, who not to do business with, and of course, what's going on down in Jamaica. Number three, we felt was that was important was it had to be partnered with a local financial institution in Jamaica that was known and trusted in the diaspora. We need to avoid Olinton, Cash Plus, and Allen Stanford and Bernie Madoff. We have to admit that. So trust was important. Our trades are done through JN Fund Managers. That's our prime broker. So like when I had the money there, we can get it from a third party. So that's three.
That's good.
Number four, we felt was important. Jamaica is a British legal system. We trust standing in front of a judge in Jamaica because of that. However, we run an island people time. So it can take forever to stand in front of a judge in Jamaica. So it needs to be domiciled in the US, Canada, or UK. More efficient court systems. But fifth and final, most important, was that it had to be something that would allow the person with $100 to be able to invest, not just the person with $100,000. So it couldn't be a private equity fund, a VC fund, or a hedge fund, which is only for accredited investors. It had to be a mutual fund, an exchange traded fund, or an investment holding company. Look like Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's company. Mutual funds are not tax efficient, so I don't want you to put any money in there, guys. Exchange traded funds are great, but exchange traded funds only can invest in public companies. And so we were left with the investment holding company option because most value is created when a company is private. If you got to invest in Facebook before it went public, in Airbnb before it went public, in Amazon, in Netflix before it went public, you have made a lot more money than the person who bought at the IPO. But most of us can't get in to private companies. A company can. Blue Mahoe has invested in private companies. And so you get to benefit from them without having to be an accredited investor. So we prefer the investment holding company option. And because we're going to be public, we have to be regulated, we have to be transparent, we have to be audited, and we have to actually put up quarterly numbers. So you get to see how much shares we own of which company, or when we bought it, or how much it worth now, and how we're spending the money. And then you get to show up at annual general shareholder meeting and be like, hey, David, what going on?
Hey, what's up, David? All right, since they don't lock us down yet,
can't lock off the dance. Do you want to be that guy? That's whoever come in and lock it off. Okay, so do you want to be that guy?
We're gonna have to take it offline, though. We definitely will. But you created a 15-year plan.
Well, we need to clarify that, right? So I was 15.
No. But listen, wait for the question. But you created this 15-year plan, and then you created a 20-year plan that would start when you're. I know you accomplished a lot of those things, but we have some mothers here in the audience. How can we help our kids to become more financially literate and to, start thinking about that? Start thinking about how they can start building their
Number
future.
one, I can tell you what we did with Luke. Luke is our oldest child, so he was 5.5 when he lost his first tooth. And so we took his money that everybody gave us, and we said, Luke, you're not going to buy Lego. You can't spend the money. You have to invest this money. So I opened an account. You have Acorns, you have Stash, you have Robinhood. We opened an account with an app called Stash, S-T-A-S-H. We opened a custodial account for Luke, and we put his $50 in there. And Stash allows you to invest in baskets. Now you can do individual securities. And so Luke chose to roll with Buffett. It was literally called roll with Buffett. You could buy a fraction of Berkshire shares. Mm-hmm. And we explained that to him. And every quarter he got to look at that portfolio and he could add some more money to it. So Luke has invested. So I remember we were in the car with his mother-in-law and the Claudia was there. And she said, Luke, you lost your first tooth. What did you do with the money? And what you spent it on? He's like, I didn't spend it, Grandma. And she looked at me and said, what? And I said, Luke, tell Grandma how much money, what interest rate you get if you put it in a savings account? 1%, Daddy, 1% a year. All right. What did you do with the money? Oh, I rolled it Buffett. I invested in Berkshire at 5.5. I invested in Berkshire. I rolled it Buffett. By the way, Daddy, how much am I up? And this is in July, I'm asking that. And he was up 14%. So right now, my kids, every quarter, we go through their account. They help me to shoot my videos. They get paid $100 or $50 per video. They get the money and then they invest that money and I match them. So let me explain what they did again. Luke, Liam, you need to set up your own accounts. Well, Daddy, I don't know what to buy. How about you invest in stuff that you know? Okay. And so he goes around the house. He says, oh, I want to buy Amazon. Why you want to buy Amazon? I want to buy Amazon because I see all these boxes coming to the house that say Amazon Prime, and I see it all over the neighborhood. So it must be a good company. You buy that. All right, I want to buy Disney. Why you want to buy Disney? Well, I'm named Luke after Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, and we have Disney Plus, and we live next door to Disney. We watch Disney all the time. Disney own Marvel as well, so I want Disney. All right, I want to buy Apple. Why you want Apple? Man, you have iPhone, mommy have iPhone, we have iPads everywhere, we watch Apple TV. Good job. What else you want? Oh, I want to buy Microsoft. Okay, why you want Microsoft? Well, you play a Microsoft Xbox, but you know what? When we had the pandemic, every child at school got a Dell laptop, and every laptop have this thing called Windows on it. Everybody have Windows, and it's Microsoft make it. I want to buy Microsoft because of that.
Paying attention to that. And
exactly. So get them to pay attention to those things and explain to you why. Why.
You made a good
Roblox,
point.
I'm going to tell you.
Yes,
the
I
Roblox
want to share
one.
that with them. So I was talking to David,
so
prepping for this, and I was belly aching to him about my daughter who's 6 and how addicted she is to Roblox. And I know there's folks in the audience that can share that, that issue as well. And your advice to me was, now you get her to invest in Roblox, or you invest in Roblox, because she's familiar with it. She knows that her friends are playing it, and you now translate that to the value, right? And
yeah. So yeah, exactly. Because remember, if you are spending money constantly, you shop at Target or you shop at Walmart, then buy some of that and get dividends back. It means you are doing that. There are a few other people like you doing that as well. So with Roblox, my kids came to me and said, Lucas, hey, Daddy, we need to buy Roblox. So here's going to IPO. I'm like, what this 9-year-old know about no IPO? What are they talking about at that school? Okay, well, you need to come back and tell me 2 things. Number 1, how Roblox makes money. And number 2, why I should invest in Roblox. And each of the kids look and them had to do that. So they came back 2 days later and sit me down and now explain, Daddy, here's how Roblox makes money. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, good. Now I know what it is. I understand how the business works. Okay, and why should I invest in Roblox? And he says, Daddy, all the kids at school are playing Roblox, and they keep annoying their parents to buy Robux to spend money in there. Right. And he says, but if our school is doing that, if Roblox is public, they're going to get to even more students, and not just in America. They're going to do it all over the world. So I think it's a growth opportunity. Okay, then I am buying Roblox. I'm going to buy it. I thought that was brilliant. That makes so much sense. But I want to point out something Kerry says. She says, spend less, save more. And I want you to stop thinking that, Kerry. I don't want you to ever say that again. We're not here to save.
Don't say that again.
We want to invest. And it's not about spending less. Not about that. You have a life to live. Enjoy your thing. What you need to do is earn more and invest more. We're not here to ban belly and spend less. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to go and earn more money. Do what you have to do to make more money. Improve yourself, get more education, ask for that promotion, or move to somewhere else where you get a promotion. Earn more money, invest more. Just don't raise your living expenses. A lot of us keep moving up in life. We get the next promotion, and so we go from the 3 series to the 5 series, but our salary didn't jump as much. So all you've done is just keep the same percentage being spent. If you can manage your expenses to stay around one area and you keep earning more money, you're good. But you want to invest it. Saving is not investing. I want to make sure saving going to a savings account. That's your emergency money. That's a savings account. You don't touch it. Your investment account. We need to start using the word invest.
All right. Well, Kerry wanted to clarify that what she meant was, people have a habit of spending more than they earn. Than they save.
Yes. And we live in an economy. We live in a society that promotes that. They want us to take on that. They want us to spend more.
So easy to put on a credit card. I mean, one of the things that I stopped doing was I started using my American Express card as cash. So when I use the Express card, I still all off at the end of the month. So to me, it's like, it's not, I only spend what I know I can pay off at the end of the month, right? So that's
right. Well, and so we need to be careful with that, So that's good, but I would say there's nothing wrong with carrying a balance if it's meant to increase your credit score. They don't like when you only pay it off. But more importantly, always look at interest rates. I never forgot in my MBA class, the professor asked about 13 of us, and he asked everybody in the class, what would you do if you got $5 million? If you won the lottery and got $5 million? Of course, the first person put up their hand and say, is that before tax or after tax? So the professor said, after tax, you get $5 million in your hand. And after lump sum, $5 million in your hand, lump sum ready. What would you do? And he went around the room, he said, David, I'll save you for last. And he goes around the room, oh, I'm going to buy a car, I'm going to pay off my house, I'm going to take mom here, I'm going to buy a house for mom, all these things.
Yep.
And then he comes to me and said, David, what are you going to do? And I was like, and somebody said they're going to pay off their student loans. And I was like, well, I'm going to look at the interest rates. If my student loan is at 6% or 4%, I'm not paying it off, because I can invest the money at higher than 6% and use that interest to then pay off the student, pay down the student loan and keep the difference. So look at the interest rate first. So if I have a credit card that is at 3% for some reason, right? Or I could start, I open the card at 3 or 0 for a year.
Yeah.
I can use that money to do something else. I can actually put that money
money
into something that might be a bond. So you want to leverage it, because remember, OPM, other people's money.
Right.
But also what I said to them is that I wouldn't be running off to pay off the car if the interest rate is low. I'm not running off to buy the house. I want to use the money to buy a profitable existing business that I understand. And now I can work in the business and help scale the business. And everybody in the class was just like, what? Wow. Never thought about it that way. So we have to start thinking about leverage and the difference between the interest rate. If you can borrow at 5 and invest at 10, then why wouldn't you do that? Exactly. So there's nothing wrong with carrying debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt. Spend the time to learn the difference.
That's actually really, really key there, David. And I'm glad we were able to speak about that.